In this chapter, we are going to learn about the processing of legislation in the County Assembly and the role of the various key players in the legislative process in the Assembly. The process of enactment of legislation in a county assembly is provided for under the County Governments Act as read together with the Constitution and the respective standing orders of the county assembly. It is important to note that the process of enacting legislation in a county assembly is the same across all 47 county assemblies in Kenya. The process of enacting legislation in a county assembly is similar to that of Parliament. However, given that the county assembly is unicameral, that is, consisting of one house only, it means that the bill will only go through the process once. In addition, given that it's only one house, it means that the bill does not have to go through a mediation process. Like in Parliament, the enactment of legislation in a county assembly begins with an idea. This idea is then converted into a legislative proposal. It may come either from a member of the respective county assembly, it may come from the committee in the respective county assembly, from the county executive committee, from a professional organization in the respective county, or it may come from an individual member. Once a legislative proposal is received by the Speaker then submits this to the clerk, who is required to ensure that it conforms to the Constitution, it conforms to national legislation that applies to the respective county assembly, and to county legislation that has been enacted within that county. Once a legislative proposal has been drafted, it is then submitted to the respective committee for purposes of pre-publication scrutiny. Where the legislative proposal is to be sponsored by a member of the respective county assembly, then this goes through pre-publication scrutiny, and the committee is required to look into the proposal to ensure that it conforms to the Constitution and that the legislative proposal is sound. Once the committee adopts the legislative proposal or is certain that the proposal is fit for publication, it will then make this recommendation to the Speaker. The committee may also have additional comments with respect to that proposal, and this would also be submitted to the Speaker, who is then required to give his or her approval with respect to the publication of the bill. However, where a bill is to be sponsored by a committee, the committee will go through the legislative proposal and either adopt it or reject it. Where it adopts the legislative proposal, the proposal is then to be sponsored either by the chairperson to the respective committee or to a member of a county assembly sitting in that committee and nominated by the committee for that purpose. The bill is then submitted to the Speaker, who is then again required to give his or her approval on whether or not the bill should be submitted for purposes of publication. In the case of legislation that emanates from a county assembly, it is required to be published both in the County Gazette and in the Kenya Gazette, and it is published in the name of the sponsor of the bill, who, like in Parliament, is required to steer the bill through the entire legislative process in the county assembly. Once the bill has been published, it is then submitted to Parliament for purposes of first reading. It is important to note Section 21 of the County Governments Act with respect to a money bill that originates in a county assembly. In this case, the county assembly can only proceed with the bill in accordance with the recommendations of the relevant county assembly committee and taking into account the views of the respective county executive committee member responsible for finance in the respective county. Once a bill is read a first time, it is committed to the relevant committee for purposes of considering the bill, conducting public participation, obtaining the views of members of the public, synthesizing them, preparing its report, and tabling it for consideration by the House at second reading. The committee will determine the best mode of conducting public participation within the counties, and it may for that purpose conduct public participation in all the wards or in selected wards within the respective county. It is required to notify the members of the public in all the wards of the consideration of that bill and require them or request them to submit any issues or any comments that they may have with respect to that particular bill. The committee will then receive any submissions made by members of the public, consider them, either adopt or reject them, or adopt them with modification, and prepare amendments aligned to the submissions made by members of the public. Like in Parliament, the committee is then required to prepare a report for tabling and consideration by the County Assembly when the bill comes up for second reading. At second reading, the sponsor of the bill is required to take the members of the County Assembly through the bill and give a justification as to why the County Assembly ought to pass the bill. Once this is done, other members of the County Assembly may give their comments or remarks with respect to the bill and may either show their support towards the bill or propose amendments at that stage or outrightly indicate why they do not support the bill. Once the bill goes through the second reading stage, it now proceeds to the Committee of the Whole, and in this case, the County Assembly will consider the bill clause by clause and will consider any amendments that the committee that considered the bill or any other member of the County Assembly may have with respect to that bill. The County Assembly may either adopt the amendments or reject the amendments, and after this stage is complete, the bill then goes through the third reading. Like in Parliament, no amendments are allowed at the third reading. Once it is done, the vellum to the bill is prepared, and this is done by incorporating all the amendments that were passed by the House to the bill and the document prepared and submitted to the Governor for assent. It is important to note that Section 24 of the County Governments Act requires the Speaker to submit to the Governor the bill for assent within a period of 14 days after passage by the respective County Assembly. The Governor has 14 days within which to assent to that particular bill. The Governor may either assent to the bill or return it back to the County Assembly with any reservations he may have with respect to clauses in the bill. Like in Parliament, the County Assembly is required to consider the reservations made by the Governor and may or may not adopt the reservations made by the Governor either wholly or with modification, or the County Assembly may determine that it wishes to pass the bill without adopting any of the recommendations made by the Governor. Passage of a bill at this stage requires 2/3 of the membership of the County Assembly. Once this is done, the bill is submitted to the Governor, who is then required to assent to the bill within a period of 7 days of receipt of the said bill. If the Governor fails to assent to the bill within 7 days, the bill is deemed to have been assented to. It is then submitted for publication in the County Gazette and in the Kenya Gazette, and this is required to be done within a period of 7 days from the date of assent. Once it is published, the county legislation comes into force on the 14th day of its publication in the County Gazette and in the Kenya Gazette. It is also important to note that Section 25(3) of the County Government Act provides that where legislation seeks to confer a pecuniary interest on the members of the respective County Assembly, such legislation will not come into force during the term of that particular County Assembly, but after elections of the next members of the respective County Assembly. When it comes to matters public participation, Part 8 of the County Governments Act makes elaborate provision for the participation of citizens of the respective counties in matters of governance in the respective county. In particular, Section 88 of the County Governments Act confers on citizens of a county the right to petition the county government on any matter falling within the mandate of the respective county government. A corresponding duty is imposed on the county government under Section 89 of the County Governments Act to respond to that particular petition. The manner in which this process is to be undertaken is to be found in county legislation enacted pursuant to Section 88(3) of the County Governments Act. In addition, Section 91 of the County Governments Act imposes an obligation on each county government to set up structures for purposes of public participation in the respective county governments. Different county governments have come up with different mechanisms of conducting public participation. Structures proposed under the Act include information technology-based platforms, town hall meetings, budget preparation and validation fora, publication of notices in the various notice boards established or set up in the respective county, and such other means that the county government may deem appropriate for the purposes of conducting public participation. Other mechanisms that have been established by county governments for conducting public participation also include placing adverts in newspapers of circulation within the respective county, or placing an advert in the radio station that is most popular within the respective county. In the case of county governments, citizen participation can begin at the policy-making process with the development of county development plans. And at this point, the county government is mandated to engage with the citizens of the respective county in formulating the said plans and in coming up with policies that are likely to affect the members of the respective county. In the case of a county assembly, public engagement can begin at the point of formulating legislation, particularly legislation that emanates from a committee. In this case, the committee can engage various stakeholders and various players in the respective county, or a person can actually submit a proposal to a committee for uptake by the respective committee and subsequent enactment into legislation. There are various avenues through which a member or a citizen of a county may engage with the county assembly for purposes of dealing with an issue that affects that particular person, or for enactment of legislation which would be necessary for ensuring that the rights of citizens in the respective county are upheld. In this session, we have been able to learn about the legislative process in the county assembly. We have been able to see the various avenues through which a member of the public can engage with the county assembly, and we've also been able to see the various fora through which the county governments can engage with the members or with the citizens of the respective county.